This book is Das Kapital by Karl Marx. Some people consider it a classic. Most folks, should they try to read it, would find it very uninteresting and boring. Nevertheless, this book and the man who wrote it and the ideas contained within it and the people who believe them have shattered the very foundations of the world. Today, Christian civilization and individual liberty are in deadly peril. Every one of you will live your lives under the shadow of Marxism, known as communism. Karl Marx lived and died a failure. At least that would have been the judgment of his contemporaries. As a man without a country, he eked out a life as a lonely exile. His life was one of poverty and illness. His wife and family were kept from literal starvation through the gifts of Frederick Engels, his wealthy co-worker who was a manufacturer. Every movement that he formed crumbled into dust. He died relatively unknown and largely unlamented. Nevertheless, the name of Marx today rings round the chancelleries of the world. In no small measure, this is due to his brilliant disciple, Vladimir Lenin. In the year 1903, Lenin established a small Marxist sect called Bolshevism with 17 supporters. 1903. In the year 1917, the party of Lenin conquered Russia with 40,000, and today, the party of Lenin has conquered 1 billion human souls. The population of the entire world is 2.5 billion. By what year will they have reached that figure? That is a question of tremendous import to everyone. 1 billion. That's the number they've conquered. How big is it? It doesn't sound very big if you say it quickly, but it's an enormous number if you try to count it. It's 12 times as many as Adolf Hitler had. It's 12 times as many as Japan had. It's 6 times the entire population of the United States. And most devastating of all, it's more than the entire population of the world to have heard the minimum story of Christ from all sources after the testimony of almost 2,000 years. Every day, the newspaper headings cry aloud of new advances that they're making as they strive to increase beyond 1 billion the number they control. Every day, they infiltrate into new areas previously devoid of apparent communist activity. Every day, the statesmen of the world are confronted with new dilemmas. They're at their wits' end. They don't know where to turn as the communist current flows. The communist tide continues to rise to the objective of 2.5 billion, the population of the entire world. The communists propose to conquer the world. They've never made any secret of this. They have proclaimed it arrogantly and confidently since their inception. I have here a book. The title is How to Be a Good Communist. The author is Liu Shaoqi, vice chairman of Communist China, their leading theorist and possibly the leading communist theorist of the world today. These are his lectures delivered to the Marxist-Leninist Institute of Yan'an in July 1939, first published by the Foreign Languages Press of Peking in 1951. They are prophetic. Half that which he prophesied has already come to pass. Let me quote from page 31. What is the most fundamental and common duty of us Communist Party members. As everybody knows, it is to establish communism, to transform the present world into a communist world. Now, it's impossible to get any more definite and precise than that. To give you one American authority, William Z. Foster, chairman of the American Communist Party, in his book, The Twilight of World Capitalism, written in 1949, has this dedication: to my great-grandson, Joseph Manly Colco, who will live in a communist United States. The communists propose to conquer the world, but it's not mere theory. They have a very practical program to advance world conquest. A leading communist spelt it out in very clear terms. First, we will conquer Eastern Europe, then the masses of Asia. We will encircle America, which will be the vast bastion of capitalism. We will not need to attack. It will fall like a ripe plum into our hands. For many years, we have been watching this program unfold as country after country, in line with this blueprint, has fallen to the communists. Let us consider the communist advances on the map of the world. In 1917, the Bolsheviks actually conquered a rather small area of Russia between Moscow and the western border. During the next few years, they extended their power over all of Tsarist Russia and the many nationalities contained therein. Then came the turn of Eastern Europe. The Baltic countries were absorbed. And following the Second World War, the Eastern European countries were added to the Communist Empire. Then in 1948, the great populous country of China was overrun by communism, and a tremendous forward stride was made in their program of world conquest. Then came North Korea, North Vietnam, and at this hour, the communists are actively engaged in Southeast Asia, in India, in Japan, and as their Asian program continues, they are working in the Near East and Africa, looking forward to the day when the masses of Asia and Africa will be the slaves of the communist cause. Western Europe will then be defenseless as Hungary was and must integrate into the gigantic communist empire. Through the conquest of the student mind, South America is first infiltrated and absorbed, and America, North America, and particularly the United States, is left alone, isolated, demoralized, confused, economically disrupted, and confronted with the terrible alternatives of surrender or annihilation. When the choice has to be made, the communists have no doubt what the answer will be. They are sure that surrender will be accepted as the lesser of two evils. It may be dressed in face-saving garments, but surrender it will be, and there will be the fulfillment of the communist madman's vision. Communism frequently comes to power by promising the people everything they could possibly want. But once the communists are enthroned in power, it is invariably associated with slavery and death. The great refugee horde, streaming through every chink in the Iron Curtain, wherever the remotest possibility of escape exists, bears eloquent testimony concerning the true nature of communist power. It is reliably reported that 20 million Chinese have paid with their lives for the failure of the Chinese to realize in time the true nature of communist terror. The long lines of mutilated bodies discovered in North Korea following the communist retreat cry aloud that communism is mutilation, torture, and shame. The recent martyred Hungarian dead add their voice to the chorus of truth that communism is a lie, that communism is associated with the torments of hell itself. These people, living in a free country, accepting and enjoying the privileges of freedom as they accept and enjoy the air they breathe, have no concept of the transformation that would come over their lives in the event of communist triumph. It is impossible to conceive that the children raised in our homes could become the accusers of their parents and actual participants in their sentencing and execution. How is it possible that our churches could become accusation meetings where the preachers are arraigned, accused, humiliated, and even arrested and destroyed? How is it possible that our children could be taken from us to be placed in the communist incubator, to be raised in the godless communist image? It's impossible to conceive these things, but they have followed wherever communism has come to power. And the terrible truth is at this moment, communism is in the process of total world conquest. Last year, the communists extended their influence over 100 million people. To do this, they did not use aggressively one gun, one bomb, or one military expedition. What did they use? The great instruments of communist conquest are personnel and publications. They are conquering the world with books, not bullets. Take this magazine, the Soviet Union, illustrated monthly, published in Russian, English, Chinese, Korean, Hindi, Urdu, Arabic, Vietnamese, Hungarian, Serbo-Croat, French, German, Spanish, Finnish, and Japanese. The color photography is beautiful. The moral tone, excellent. No vice, crime, nakedness, sex. Everything depicts happiness, abundance, peace, and freedom. Communist China is, if anything, doing an even more magnificent job. China Pictorial. Think of the languages in which this is published. Published monthly in Chinese, Mongolian, Tibetan, Uyghur, Korean, English, Russian, German, French, Japanese, Vietnamese, Indonesian, Hindi, and Spanish. The badge is the smile. No matter what you're doing, you are smiling. And it is certainly overwhelmingly attractive. Poland is so poor that America has to help to feed the people. Nevertheless, they can produce these magazines in many languages depicting communism as the creator of the good and the abundant life. Even North Korea is able to produce magazines of this quality in many languages. If we believe this magazine, life in Hungary is heaven on earth. But magnificent as this literature for adults undoubtedly is, to me, the most amazing thing of all is this literature printed in Russia and Peking in English for 1, 2, and 3-year-old babies. The communists want your children. They want them very much. They're prepared to go to great lengths to get them. The wolf and the little kids. The 3 bears. Children's drawings from China. beautiful drawings depicting what the children of China can draw with all the captions in English. The Gift, another beautiful book for children. Folk take these books and look at them, and then they say, but I don't understand. There doesn't seem to be any communism in these children's books. Why do the communists produce them? The answer is very simple. When the kidnapper desires to entice the children into his automobile for ugly and evil purposes, it's natural that he should endeavor to build their confidence by giving them candy. He gives them good candy, not poison candy. This is the literary candy with which the communists are deluging the world, especially for the children, to entice them into the communist automobile for the journey to enslavement and death. In Moscow, in Peking, in every communist capital, the printing presses are rolling. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And from those presses, the greatest flood tide of beautiful literature streams forth and goes into every country in the world in multitudes of languages, in glorious color, and at a very cheap cost, in tune with the capacity of the people to pay. The message glamorizes and glorifies communism, presents it as the creator of abundance and freedom, and depicts America as the source of great evil and the threat to the peace of mankind. Unless we reach the minds of the people of the earth with the truth, we are inviting the communist hordes to carry on their deadly pathway. The communist literature is wonderful, but it would be ineffective if they did not have the personnel to use it. In every country in the world, the communists have their agents, dedicated, ready to serve the communist cause. Where do they get them? What arguments are sufficient to convince them to sacrifice their own interests in the interests of communism? The great recruiting ground for communism is the college and the university. Practically every major world communist figure who became a communist in a non-communist country did so as a student intellectual. Why has communism such a powerful appeal to the student mind? Communism promises two things. It promises, firstly, to conquer the world. And having conquered the world, it then promises to regenerate mankind, to populate the entire earth with people so wonderful in intelligence, character, and disposition that universal happiness prevails everywhere. Communism promises to create a new heaven and a new earth wherein the redeemed shall dwell. It is Satan's substitute program for the regeneration of Christ. When an enlightened communist is asked how they propose to change human nature, the answer comes very readily. It is one word, and that word is science. Science, worker of miracles, will change human nature itself. They then proceed to give their three fundamental scientific laws. And here they are. Law number one is there is no God. Law number two is man is a material machine, a body, matter in motion, nothing more. Within our bodies, a stomach secretes gastric juice, a liver secretes bile, a brain secretes emotion and thought. Man has no soul, no spirit, no significant individual value, continuity of life. We are the species Homo sapiens, created by evolution, subject to modification and improvement by those methods proven successful with other species of the animal kingdom. The third law of communism specifies that the qualities of human intelligence and emotion are the reflections of the economic environment. The tragic truth is these three basic communist laws are taught or inferred in a vast segment of the educational institutions of the free world. Every time we graduate from college or high school, a student who does not believe in God, who believes that man is merely an evolutionary animal, who believes that our qualities simply reflect our economic environment, we graduate a potential communist recruit, because communism proceeds by a logical program to build on that foundation. Since environment creates character and intellect, if they can completely select the environment, they can control character and thought. So their program is to conquer the world, destroy the capitalist system, replace it by socialism, which will give experiences, which will generate new characters, new ideas, and as these new people emerge, everything evil will vanish from the earth. Government itself will wither and die. There will no longer be any need for a police force, because there will be nothing for the police to do. No income tax, because everybody will work willingly, creatively, produce universal abundance, and merely retain their individual needs. Goodbye forever to hunger and fear, famine and war, because the golden day of communism has dawned upon the earth. Oh, it's a pretty picture. The devil certainly transforms himself into an angel of light, but it hides something ugly beyond expression. When the communists are confronted with the obvious problem of what they will do with those people who exist, with their characters and ideas matured in their environment, they have no hesitation, at least the honest ones have not, in indicating it will be necessary to dispose of them. To the communists, this is not murder. It is social science. It is their duty. It is righteous to destroy those classes of society who, by reason of their relationship to the economic system, are diseased. The tragedy is not merely that it murders, but it makes murder a moral and a righteous act. When a person is doing wrong and knows they're doing wrong, there is a basis of appeal. But when wrong becomes right, no common ground remains. And consistent with communism's basic principles is the greatest program of murder the mind of man has ever known. Communism is the literal fulfillment of Psalm 14. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. What are the consequences? They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. Have all the workers of iniquity no knowledge, who eat up my children as they eat bread, and call not upon the name of the Lord? And emerging from this bottomless pit of godless materialism, captivating by a glamorous vision of a regenerate mankind, recruiting the youth by perverting their religious fanaticism, utilizing every modern scientific method, this torrent is sweeping the earth, and home and children and church stand in imminent, deadly peril. And the question confronting each one is, what can we do? The battle with communism is a battle concerning the being of God and the spiritual nature of man. Communism denies God. Christianity affirms God. Where do you stand in this battle? Is there a God? What is he like? Can we know him? Has he the power necessary for this hour? What answer can we give to these questions? Fortunately, God has not left us without the answer. His word provides it. It tells that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God formed man in his own image. God loved man and redeemed him on Calvary's cross. We can know God because God himself has made a way. Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Come to God, God's way, by accepting by faith Christ and his redemption. And when you know that you are a child of God, then fling yourself into the struggle for Christ and for freedom. The price to be paid may be heavy. I cannot promise that you will not need to give your life. But on the authority of this word of God, I can promise that if we die with Christ, we shall also live with him. For Christ being risen from the dead, dieth no more. Death hath no more dominion over him. And life with Christ is glory. And death with Christ is triumph indeed. The communists say their victory is certain. Certain because our environment has created us in such a mold that we're greedy and selfish, intellectually shallow and dishonest, that it does not matter what the evidence is. We'll never have the honesty to confront it, the intelligence to understand it, or the dedication to do what is necessary to survive. Can I ask you, as I ask myself, is your life, is my life, an argument for or against the accuracy of that communist thesis? And in this hour of danger and opportunity, redeemed by the blood of Christ, endued with the mind of Christ, equipped with the power of Christ, let us fling ourselves, body and soul, into the battle for God's will and God's purpose. With the apostle, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service.